understanding that doing the work isn't just about getting a good grade. It's also about understanding the processes in which you're in to be successful, in those environments. So I think that's the first thing, is just doing the work. And then the other thing is, it's okay to say yes to new things until you're ready to start saying no.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to Path Found, the podcast about the real, messy, unexpected journeys that lead us to the work we love. I'm Monica Argandonia, and every week I talk with someone whose story proves there's no single right way to build a meaningful life. Today's guest is Gus Orozco. Gus grew up in Long Beach, California, struggled in school, dropped out, and earned his GED before joining the Army and deploying to Iraq. Years later, after returning home unsure of his future, he rebuilt his life through college, mentorship, and public service, eventually working in a U.S. congressional office helping constituents navigate complex federal systems and access the support they deserve. His story is about resilience, reinvention, and the quiet power of simply doing the work. Let's get into it. So, Gus, welcome to the podcast. I am excited to have this conversation with you. And as I start with all my guests, tell me a little bit about what you were like when you were in middle school, high school.
Yeah, well, first, let me start off by saying thank you so much for having me. I know that we've been talking about this for quite some time, and just happy to make the time to hang out with you on a lovely Sunday afternoon. Yeah, so high school, well, I guess junior high. I was an okay student in junior high, but I think I started hanging out with, not the best kind of people. And so my grades 6th and 7th grade were okay, but then towards the end of 7th grade, they weren't great. So my dad pulled me out of public school and put me into private school, which was just really bad for my mental health. So that didn't last long. So I was kind of tossed back into public school to finish off my 8th grade year, and was really trying to find myself, struggled a lot. And by the time I was joining high school, I found the ROTC program at Wilson High School here in Long Beach, California. And that, I think, really set me up for kind of the structure that I was missing, I think, at home. And, developing really good friendships with folks, with the younger and older class men and women, I think really created the initial structure that ended up being kind of what I was longing for towards high school. So I still wasn't doing very good in class, but I was really passionate about kind of the military thing and the extracurricular stuff. So I ended up dropping out of high school and getting my GED around the time that everybody was graduating. So yeah, it was kind of a tough early childhood with kind of no real support from my dad, and my mom was kind of working as much as she could, but kind of found a little bit of that support from friends at school.
Did you find ROTC by yourself, or did someone say, hey, this might be good for you?
When I was in 8th grade, the high school ROTC folks came and kind of gave us a little presentation, and it seemed like something I was interested in because a few reasons, right? I think the idea of going to gym class and kind of showering with other kids was kind of scary. But then also the idea of having that community was really attractive to me. So I think that the community aspect of the program was really what attracted me in 8th grade. And 9th and 10th grade, when I was kind of starting off in it, I actually found it really, really great. And I was pretty successful at, the academic part of the ROTC program, but also the physical aspect and the leadership aspect of it.
So, you were a past student of mine, and I only know you as really smart, a hard worker, one of my best students. How in high school, was it just a lot of things? Was it you just didn't know what you wanted to do? What was going on?
Yeah, I mean, part of it was definitely struggling at home and struggling in an immigrant community. So my parents immigrated here when I was really young. So me and my parents were all born in Mexico, and my younger siblings were born here in Long Beach. So I think navigating part of that I think my identity as a Mexican American kid, having to translate for my parents and having that extra pressure of having to be successful successful without a real support structure, I think was where I failed in grasping, I think, a lot of the path that I really kind of should have been on. I don't know if that makes sense, but yeah, I feel like there was a lot of pressure and I didn't feel like I had that support. And yeah, I don't know why. I just couldn't, because I've always loved learning and reading and kind of understanding like the world and systems and stuff. I just couldn't get into the rhythm of that educational system at the middle school and high school age in a way that I could have the home and school balance.
So when you get your GED and then your ROTC, so what does that mean now?
Yeah, so I got my GED and was already talking to Army recruiters in my junior year of high school. I was talking to Army recruiters. So I already knew that was the direction that I was going to go. College really wasn't in my path or even in my siblings' paths, just because we didn't understand how to apply for college. We didn't have money for college. So for me, I knew that really joining the military was going to be a way for me to create something more than just, being the handyman working for my dad's plumbing company or whatever it might be. So I joined the military in 2005, joined the Army, and started that career, I guess.
So how was that? Was it what you expected? Was it a good thing?
Yeah, it was really good. I was really successful in my first couple of months in like boot camp and training. A lot of the structure that I picked up from ROTC, although it was high school program, it really did translate well into boot camp, into that initial part of training. I was fit, I was smart, and I really enjoyed that. So I was really successful during the training part of it, and then eventually going into my first duty station, which was in Washington. I was kind of seen as like one of the more capable young soldiers kind of coming into the unit.
So you were deployed?
Yeah. So after I got to my first unit, our entire unit moved to Germany, and we kind of reestablished historical unit spaces there. So our unit was in Germany kind of in the 70s and then left. And so, we all moved back into this kind of space in Germany. And we were there for about a year and a half, rebuilding relationships with the German military. So we got to do a bunch of really cool training with the German army. And then in 2006, late 2006, early 2007, there was a kind of a larger surge happening in Iraq. So that's when our number basically got called. And in late summer of 2007, I deployed to Iraq for a 15-month deployment, which was tough. I mean, it was definitely one of the longer deployments that the military was doing at that time. And we definitely were in some places where we got shot at a couple of times. And I was in a vehicle called a Striker. It's kind of a larger 8-wheeled baby tank thing that carries around a squad of soldiers. And so my vehicle hit a couple of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, and generally we were all okay. We got shooken up, and we kind of were in that environment for a good part of about 9 months until our unit was basically starting to pack up and change over with the incoming unit. So yeah, my deployment was interesting because I was already in the Army for about 3 years at that time, and so I was as a 21-year-old taking on leadership positions where I was the tank commander, and as a 22-year-old in charge of a couple $1 million vehicle and weapons and all that stuff. I feel like it definitely helped me grow up a little bit faster than normal. I mean, as a 22-year-old kid running around with guns, you're also kind of feeling like you're a child in the middle of this world. So it had kind of a lot of these different changes in me that part of it I still felt like a kid, but also part of it definitely felt like I was doing something that no other real kid really was doing or should have been doing at that age.
Did you think you wanted to make a career of this? Like this this was long term?
I don't know. I remember wanting to get out and come back home to Long Beach and just be an adult. I remember wanting to like do all the cool adult things like going to, breweries or going to, all those things. And so I think part of that desire was really the big driving force in me getting out after 5 years. Around the time that I decided to get out, our company got orders that we were going to go to Afghanistan. And so for me, it was perfect timing. It was either stay and go to Afghanistan and figure out how to survive that, or come back home and be an adult, travel, do all the fun stuff. So I chose to do, the latter and come home and basically start a new life here.
What was that like?
It was scary. It felt like when I got home, I was, I think, 22, maybe 23. It felt like I just time traveled from high school, and I kind of forgot all of my military stuff. I got like a overnight job stocking shelves at Home Depot, and I was sleeping on my brother's couch for a little bit while I kind of got on my feet. And I started to feel like I was turning back into that high school kid that really didn't have any purpose or direction. And so, yeah, I definitely felt like I was slipping back into something that I really wasn't happy with. So around that time, I decided to get into school because I had the GI Bill that you get when you serve. So I enrolled at Long Beach City College, and around the same time, an Army recruiter came to my house and offered me a position as an instructor in the Army Reserve, which meant, what the 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year kind of catchphrase that they give you. So because those two things happened at the same time, I feel like it kind of reignited or resparked something in me to, completely change everything that I was doing. So I quit my job. I joined the Army Reserve and went to do training. And as soon as I got back, I enrolled at Long Beach City College and basically started school in the Army Reserve at the same time. And I think it was the kick in the butt that I really needed.
So when you're at Long Beach City College, you're doing your GEs, is anything like clicking like, hey, this is what I think I want to do moving forward?
Yeah. So I was doing my GEs and I was kind of interested in something science related. So I took an astronomy class and absolutely fell in love with it. And around the same time, I was also starting to volunteer in the veterans office at Long Beach City College. So I got a part-time job there and started volunteering with the club, with the Student Veterans Club. So those two things happened, I think, pretty much at the same time. And I enjoyed volunteering and I enjoyed kind of organizing and event planning and a lot of that stuff that came with the student life aspect. And then as far as academics, my school counselor, I guess, messed up in my education plan and didn't realize that I needed to take a bunch of chemistry and physics classes. So by the time I was halfway through my career at Long Beach City College, I realized I needed to stay probably 2 or 3 more years to catch up on all the chemistry and physics that I needed if I wanted to stay in the astronomy or physics path. So at that point, I looked at my options and I found the easiest sciencey degree that I could find, and it was geography with a path to Cal State Long Beach. And so that's what I chose. I chose that. And then around the same time, I was also more involved in student government at Long Beach City College. So I ended my time there as the student representative on the board of trustees, which is the college board that basically creates policy for the entire school district. And with that, transferring to Cal State Long Beach with my major basically declared and with the passion to volunteer with student organizations, I think is another one of those big steps that I took to kind of get me to where I am today.
How did you get involved in the student government piece?
It started off in a weird way. So we had a student veteran club, and our idea as student veterans was basically getting veterans together, having barbecues and, having a day at the bar, or just kind of little group sessions to reignite some of that camaraderie that a lot of us end up missing when we leave the military. So it started with that. And then the ASB at Long Beach City College was willing to give student clubs money to kind of grow out a lot of their club activities. And the best way I found to get some of that money was to be a part of the ASB like grant committee. So I then joined ASB to figure out kind of how that system works so that I could help the Veterans Club and other clubs apply for that money. And then positions just kept being available. And so I kept applying for other positions and ended up as the student trustee.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you're at Cal State Long Beach. You're majoring in geography. What are those years like?
Yeah. So on the academic side, I obviously took a couple of your classes and absolutely fell in love, I think, with the desert. And I'd never seen the desert in the way that kind of you explained it to us. And not to mention, I met my wife on one of your school trips. So, that kind of helped. Yeah, I mean the way that you, and I know this is about me, but I have to give you some love. The exposure that you gave us to just the ability to advocate for something that you're passionate about, I think is one of the big reasons why me and my wife are so successful in our careers, is because we're really trying to advocate for things that we're passionate about. But we were on those steel trips, and I then added environmental science and policy as a minor to kind of keep taking a lot of those classes, and I wasn't entirely sure what I was going to do with that degree, but I knew that having a bachelor's, first off, being the first one in my family to go to college and first one in my family to have a bachelor's, was something that I knew that I wanted, and I was going to figure it out after that. So academically, I think for me, it was kind of a check the box, right? Get that piece of paper while also enjoying some of the classes and some of that exposure that we got to going out to the desert and going out to all these other great camping trips that we did and some of the research projects. On the volunteer and student government side, it was kind of a similar path. When I got to Cal State Long Beach, I started volunteering with the student organization, the veteran student organization there, and realized that they needed help growing. And so there was a position on the ASI, the Associated Students Incorporated student government organization there at CSULB, that was veteran specific. And so I applied to that, and same thing. I was on student government for a year while I was there, and that eventually got me a little bit noticed by City of Long Beach officials. So the mayor of Long Beach at the time, Mayor Robert Garcia, his staff got a phone call from one of the local football teams. They were looking for a student veteran to highlight at one of their football games, and so the mayor's office called Long Beach City College and said, "Hey, do you have a student veteran that you want to highlight?" And Long Beach City College said, "Yeah, Gus is great." And then the mayor's team called Cal State Long Beach, same thing. "Hey, do you have a student veteran who you want to highlight?" And again, it was me. So I think by both schools kind of, adding me or highlighting me, the mayor's team was like, "Yes, this is the guy we want." And eventually, the football team reached out, and I got to, go on the halftime show or something. I don't even remember what it was, but we got I got 5 football tickets and got to take some of my student veteran friends, and we had a good day. So that happened. And around the same time, the mayor was doing his State of the City address, and there was some sort of big immigration issue, I think, where a bunch of kids were brought to Long Beach and were basically living out of the convention center. And so the mayor wanted to highlight an immigrant student veteran, and obviously, I'd just gotten recognized at the football game, so I was kind of a shoo-in for that position too. So during the mayor's address, he kind of gave this little 30-second intro on why, student veterans and immigrants are such great. So that happened. And then after that, the mayor's team reached out and said that there was a brand new city commission on addressing veteran issues that was being created in the city of Long Beach, and they wanted me to apply for it. So I did, and I got appointed as a commissioner in spring of 2017.
And this is all while you're finishing your degree.
Yes. Yeah. So I graduated in the fall of 2017. So I was volunteering with student veteran organizations. I was a city commissioner. I was also volunteering for a nonprofit. It's the Long Beach Veterans Day Parade, which unfortunately no longer exists. But yeah, I was volunteering. And I think the only reason why I was so successful at it was because I was using the GI Bill and I was working on campus. So I didn't really have to have a real job. The GI Bill and the 20 hours a week that I was spending working at the Veteran Center was enough to get me kind of through that.
All right. So you graduate, and do you know what you want to do?
No idea. No idea. I took an unpaid position in the City of Bellflower's planning department. I thought I wanted to do city planning because it kind of fit into my degree. I have always kind of liked architecture architecture. And so I thought there would be some kind of architecture component to that, but it really wasn't what I wanted to do. It felt more like being at a DMV or something, right? You're taking applications, you're reviewing them, and that I didn't enjoy that, but I needed a job because I just graduated and I was kind of working through my savings. So I found a nonprofit that helps homeless veterans kind of go through the process of becoming housed. So I became a caseworker for that nonprofit, and it was great. It was working with veterans. It was understanding how different levels of government work and how to apply for the services that these veterans were entitled to. So I liked that, but it was nonprofit work, so it wasn't really going to pay well. So I still kept kind of looking for my next step while I was gaining some of that experience.
So how long did you do that?
I think it was about 2.5 years.
Okay, so for a while.
Yeah. And then after that, because I'm, this whole time I'm also still in the Army Reserve. One of my Army Reserve bosses was a human resources specialist for the Army as a civilian. So it's kind of like contractor work, civilian for the Army. So there was some HR positions opening up and it paid a little bit more. It was active federal service. It was a federal job. So I started doing that and I enjoyed that also. I again, understanding how systems work and how to navigate through that, I think I really enjoyed. So it not only, got me kind of getting more active federal time, planning for retirement. It also made me a better Army Reserve soldier because I then started to understand how the Army Reserves works and was kind of being successful in both careers by just having this one job.
Right. And you're building all those skills and that experience. So where does that lead you?
That leads me to just before my new job. So I was doing that. I was getting frustrated. I'd been doing it at that point, I'd been doing that specific job for 5 years. So I was Army Human Resources for 5 years. And I also ran for city council at some point. It's somewhere in there. I don't know if we want to talk about that.
No, we're going to talk about that.
Okay. So I'm doing the human resources thing and hold on. I need to take a step back. So I'm doing the Army resources thing. And then I decided to run for city council before my new job. So it was the 2021 election and a bunch of stuff happened in Long Beach that meant a bunch of positions were opening up. The member of Congress decided not to run again. So Mayor Garcia decided to run for that House of Representatives position, which meant that the council member in my district was running for mayor. So my city council, the city council district that I live in, was basically open for grabs. And at that point, I stayed in touch with the then Mayor Garcia, and I stayed in touch with a couple other elected officials that I'd met kind of throughout the time. And I was asking for advice kind of from anybody that would kind of take, 10 seconds to talk to me. And that city council seat had never been held by a person of Hispanic or Latino descent. And this district is over 50% Latino. So it basically seemed like, it would be an incredible experience. And obviously I would have been lucky to do that. So I threw my name in the ring and started the process of creating a campaign and building a team. But a year and a half before I decided to do that, I submitted a packet to the Army Reserves to become an officer, a commissioned officer in the Army Reserve, and I hadn't heard back. And so by this time, I think 2 months in campaigning, I'm fundraising, relatively successfully fundraising, but the Army decided to call and said, hey, your application has been approved, once in a lifetime thing, because this position, at the time, I think I was 36 years old, I think, and I was already aging out of that program. So I had to decide, did I want to run for city council or did I want to do this Army thing that I, wasn't going to be eligible to do again? So I thought I could do both. So I accepted the Army commission thing. And as soon as I did, I found out that the unit that I was going to be in was deploying to the Middle East in a year. caseworker. So when I heard that, I mean, my heart broke because there's just no way that, I would have to go through 6 months of training plus another month or two of train up for the deployment. The deployment would probably be in 9 months. There's just absolutely no way that I would be a successful sitting member of the city council if I'm gone for, half of my term. So yeah, I decided to step down from the city council position, and the one of the candidates that I was running against, who had way much more actual community support. I gave her a call and she was super supportive, and we ended up kind of hugging it out, and we're still pretty good friends now. But yeah, I decided to do the Army thing and left and was gone for 6 months training. Luckily, by the time I got home, the position for that deployment was already filled, and so I didn't have to deploy, but I ended up doing a couple other really cool Army things along that way.
So, do you regret dropping out of that race? Do you ever think?
I don't.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I don't. I don't regret it. In the last couple of years, I've learned a lot more about what council members do and what that process looks like. And I'm pretty glad that I didn't go all the way through, because I don't think it would have been what I wanted to do. I'm sure I would have been successful and I would have done, everything that I can. But working on, and I'll talk a little bit about it in a sec, about what I'm doing now, I think for me, just being on staff, being a staff member of, an office is much more rewarding than being the person that's kind of running the helm and being that policy driver.
So you don't think you'd ever run again?
I don't want to say no.
That's fair.
Yeah, running took a lot out of me and my wife, because it was grassroots all the way. And so she was editing and she was doing a lot of my digital design, and she was basically my campaign manager. And that was probably the hardest her and I had worked on one thing in probably our entire lives, and it was draining. And I know she doesn't want to do something like that again unless I have a stronger support system. And at the point I am right now in time, I don't see myself doing that. But I don't want to say no.
Okay. All right. So so after all that, where do you end up?
So I'm back in the Army as a commissioned officer. I'm still doing the human resources thing as a civilian. And now Congressmember Robert Garcia, he won his election. There was a military and veterans position opening in his office. And so his team reached out to me and first asked me if I was interested in it. And if I wasn't, then could I point them in the direction of somebody good? And so for me, initially, I was hesitant because it was significant pay cut. It was it was kind of a dream job, but my wife and I had bought a house, and so we were kind of looking at our finances, and it really didn't make a lot of sense to take that significant of a pay cut to do, a fun job. So I started helping them a little bit, looking for somebody that would be great in that position. And then I was applying for a promotion at work and got denied. And kind of on a whim, we both looked at our finances, and luckily enough, at the same time, she got a great job in another city. So I called up the team and said, hey, here's a resume. If you still have time for an interview, I'd love one. And I won't talk too much about that process because it was a fast process. I was basically a shoo-in, and I got onboarded pretty fast, and it's been such an incredible experience since I've been there for about a year and some change, a year and like 3 or 4 months.
What kind of work are you doing?
Yeah, so I am both a field representative and a caseworker. So the field representative stuff is the fun stuff. We're out ribbon cuttings and meeting with community members, especially if the congressman's not in district. We're the eyes and ears, which is great. I love community building, and I love being out, and ribbon cuttings usually have free snacks. So I remember the broke college kid, any chance you can find free snacks is great. So that part is fun. But the casework side of it is really what me and my colleagues really are passionate about, because it's connecting connecting constituents with the federal agency and working through some of the issues that constituents have that they don't know how to, like fixing folks' social security checks for some reason will stop. And so, we'll talk to the social security offices and kind of get that ball rolling. For me, it's been a lot of getting grandpa's awards to the family and, military awards, and working with veterans to get the VA to schedule them for appointments because they can't get a hold of the VA. And so it's stuff like that. And it's great because we really see the impact that office does, but it's also kind of heartbreaking sometimes when the federal government, isn't able to give the constituent what the constituent believes they deserve. And
Right.
so that part is heartbreaking, and it's heartbreaking for a couple of reasons. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm doing right now.
So how long are you going to do this? What do you see in the future for yourself?
Yeah, I don't know. That's a great question. I really like public service, and I see myself, kind of making whatever networking connections I can here. A lot of folks in offices similar to mine, will end up going to county or city government positions and working staff that way. So I definitely want to stay in this realm as long as I can. And, if that means working my way to chief of staff of a council member or a mayor or something, I think it's kind of where I want to be. And if I do decide to run for another government, elected position, I think being on staff is the important thing, because you will already understand how that system works and how to kind of help the residents in the best way without, having to learn the job, on day one. I think being ready for that job is what's really important.
And you're making all those connections in the community.
Yeah.
So, all right, it's a pretty impressive career path. And it started out rocky. So
Yeah.
knowing what you know now, what would you go back and tell your 15-year-old self first? What would you tell that kid in 8th or 9th grade?
Yeah, I think, and I catch myself saying it all the time, is just do the work. I think when I was that young, I was always looking for the easy way out. I was looking for doing the least amount of homework to kind of get through, and ended up, ditching a lot and hanging out with the wrong crowds. And I think instead of that, understanding that doing the work isn't just about getting a good grade, it's also about understanding the processes in which you're in to be successful, in those environments. So I think that's the first thing, is just doing the work. And then the other thing is, it's okay to say yes to new things until you're ready to start saying no. Yeah, I for the last 10 years, it's been really easy for me to say yes to everything. I've been on a couple of nonprofit boards. I've volunteered. I taught a leadership program for the city of Long Beach for 4 years. And so saying yes has kind of placed me where I am today. And it's, I'm incredibly grateful for it, but I'm at a point now where I need to start saying no to things because my plate is just so incredibly full.
Yeah, it takes a while to learn how to say no, but it's good because you need all those experiences when you're starting out.
Yeah.
What would you say to, and I know you said do the work, but specifically to college students who I think are worried about, how's their major going to turn into a job? What impact is AI going to have? How do I find a job? What would you tell them?
Yeah, that is tough because most of my friends aren't using the degree that they got in the way that they thought they were going to do. So again, being able to be open to any opportunity that comes your way, because you never really know where it's going to lead, and you never really know if it's going to show you something that you really like or really don't like. For me, volunteering at the planning department in Bellflower really showed me that is not what I want to do, even though it aligned with my degree the most of what I've done. So yeah, I think being able to say yes to, volunteer opportunities, and it'll show you what you like and what you don't. As far as finding a job, that's the tough one. For me, I've been lucky enough that I've had incredible mentors who have shown me, or who have opened those doors for me. And so, for a college student that doesn't have the military background that I do, I think it is finding those mentors. I mean, you're an incredible mentor to me, and there's no real military connection here. But I think that's another thing is get to know the old people, because they're smarter than you are.
Thanks. It was all going well until you said that.
Yeah. What time is it? About to go.
Gus, thank you so much. Again, you've had an inspiring career and you've really been successful. So good for you.
Yeah, I was kidding about having to leave.
No.
So if you need to go,
No,
yeah,
it's
no,
fine.
I mean, I really do owe you, so much because again, you introduced me to my wife inadvertently, but I think you're the only college professor that I still talk to, and I still, still bounce stuff off of you. And I know you still kind of stayed in touch and try to bounce stuff off of me. And I think those relationships are really, really important to me. And so I appreciate that you are there for me. And I hope that other students have that. If not with you, then they find that with someone in their life that, they admire, like I admire you.
I really appreciate that, Gus. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening to Path Found. If anything we talked about today connected with you or gave you a new perspective, we'd love it if you subscribed, left a review, or shared the episode with someone you care about. You can also find us on Instagram at Path Found Podcast. To explore more stories, resources, and ways to get involved, visit KeystoneNetwork.org. This podcast is just one part of the journey. At Keystone Network, we're helping young people and anyone figuring it out as they go build meaningful futures one step at a time. A huge thank you to my podcast editor, David Strutt. You can find him on LinkedIn for helping bring these stories to life, and to Elizabeth Miner at Silvermine Creative for the beautiful artwork and web design. And if you're on your own path, navigating the unknown, making a pivot, or simply figuring it out as you go, just know you're not alone. The route may not be linear, but there's always a way forward. I'm Monica Argandonia, and I'll see you next time on Path Found.